to First Access TV. Today we'll be reviewing 1996 film Chain Reaction, starring Morgan Freeman, the lead actor. We got Keanu Reeves and Rachel Wee. Rachel Wee, she was widely known. I forget her name in The Mummy. She was in The Mummy a couple years later, but this is one of her first big production films. 1996. Chain Reaction. Chain Reaction is one of my favorite films. Actually, my father and I, we went to the movie theater to go see this. And I'm always drawn in to movies like this. You got to think 96, I was what, 12 maybe? Um, but it's sort of a uh, science. I don't want to say fiction, but it's like a science type where science, special ops, government, and energy meet. They all meet. So it's like a science fiction action thriller. Um, but basically, Morgan Freeman is the head of a foundation in this movie. That foundation has government, CIA, and dark money ties. Um, Morgan Freeman, his character in the movie, he kind of totes the line between the legal gray area. And what happens is basically the premise of the movie. Um, it's based here in Chicago, and it's filmed largely at the University of Chicago, here on the South Side, and they're trying to convert hydrogen from water into clean energy. And Keanu Reeves he plays the role of Eddie Kasalovich, who is a brainiac student machinist. He's probably one of the only ones that know how to balance the frequency out to convert this clean energy. And so it's sort of like a power struggle within the movie. There's another guy. His name is uh, Brian Cox. Now Brian Cox plays Lyman Collier. He's the chairman of the research foundation. Is trying to turn this hydrogen into clean, free energy, or whatever. All right. And so while this all this stuff is going on, some people get murdered, some scientists get murdered, one of the facilities gets blown away, and they frame Keanu Reeves, who is Eddie Kasalovich in the movie. All right, and so it's one of those action packed movies that make you think. Now we have all these different streaming services where you can watch movies and watch, things from the '90s and things of that nature. But you'd be surprised that there's still a lot of stuff that you can overlook, miss some good movies that you might not know about. And Chain Reaction's actually on Tubi. I think they're gonna have it up there for the next couple of days, so you can watch Chain Reaction up there. But all in all, it's I give this movie 5 stars. I know they had a budget of back then of 50 million. The box office was 60 million, so they made their money and some back. I'm not sure what it's done since August of '96. I'm sure they've done some more numbers then, but it's one of those type of movies where uh, a great cast, a great balanced cast, but it didn't have the big marketing because you're talking about 1996. So you're talking about Bulls championship, their fourth. You're talking about let's see, '96. A lot of stuff going on in politics in '96. A lot of big movies. I think Men in Black, I think, came out later that year. You got The Nutty Professor came out that summer. Independence Day. So it was overshadowed by a lot of different things. '96. I think '96 was also a thin line between love and hate. So yeah, it was a lot of things going on in '96, and so it's one of those movies where it's just kind of like a cult classic where um, you kind of appreciate it. Um, but in closing, um, I saw a lot of different nuances within this movie. And one of the nuances that I saw, well, actually a couple that I saw, um, that I was able to kind of latch on to and kind of attribute to my life, but also, these movies tell a story. You can grab so many different things from them. But Morgan Freeman's character, his character was very, very, very calculated. And what that means is, like I said earlier, when you're kind of like toting the legal line, because you're dealing with a foundation that is dealing with science has CIA ties and that's getting dark money. They got ex CIA operatives. I'm sure that the story is not that far fetched. We know this type of stuff happens in real time, right? So that particular character being um, black guy Morgan Freeman, very sharp, very educated, very book smart, very street smart, very witty. He knows the ins and outs of the game. Just an all around brilliant mind. And while all this stuff is going on and all these murders are taking place and things are blowing up, he's got the FBI on his tail, right? And there's a scene I want to play here so you guys can see where the FBI, there's an interaction between him and the FBI. I just want y'all to see um, his wittiness and how to interact and not how to not say too much and be on point while being pressed, right? So just take a moment and look at this particular clip. It's about a minute or so, but I just think this is an important part of this movie review.
Mr. Shannon?
What?
There's two gentlemen from the FBI here to see you.
Well, this is more important than his afternoon tea. Our apologies for interrupting your tea, Mr. Shannon, but what's Kasalovich doing in Wisconsin?
Running away from you, I'd imagine.
We understand he phoned you a couple of hours ago.
I counseled Eddie to turn himself into the proper authorities.
Yeah, well, he and Miss Sinclair shot a Wisconsin state trooper.
I doubt that very seriously.
Well, the state trooper's very dead. Mr. Shannon, these are copies of the Moore Foundation IRS files. You know what's in them?
Meager tax records, I imagine. We are a non-profit organization.
The funding for your foundation comes from a wide variety of sources. Defense contractors, telecommunication companies, aerospace.
Well, it's gratifying to know that our work is appreciated.
But the bulk of your contributions seem to come from one account in the Cayman Islands.
I don't do the fundraising.
Oh, yeah, and the account is classified. Who pays your salary, Mr. Shannon?
The foundation pays my salary.
Classified accounts, encrypted phone communications. You know, a man could be forgiven for concluding that your foundation is largely a front for our friends at the CIA.
Well, if that's the case, there may be national security issues here that are larger than all of us.
Interfering with an FBI investigation is a federal crime.
I know the law, Mr.
Doyle. National security does not include murdering people. Domestically, at least. Tell your friends at Langley that domestic is our backyard. They're not allowed to play here.
All right. So,
Keep the returns.
you guys watched that. You've seen that.
Nice house.
My father, like I said, me and went to the movies to see this. Went to the theaters to see this movie. We used to watch a lot of movies. The one thing that I'm just sitting here just now. This is just I just thought about this. I knew it, but it just clicked just now. I have a unique. I'm sure we all do, but I have a unique perspective on how to grab certain things out of movies, and I think my father implanted that unknowingly, and we never got along for the most part. But there's a lot I did learn from him. And one of the things that got on my nerves is that when it came to, he was kind of a hypocrite of sorts. Because if it came to like a movie like Juice, he felt it was his business to, I couldn't, he knew I was going to end up watching it, but I had to watch it with him so he can explain to me what was going on. And I think what it was I could watch The Terminator by myself, who is extremely violent. He's teaching violence, but because there's this black actor who I dress like and who I most associate with, I needed to have guidance to watch that. And so, a movie like Terminator, I was fine watching it alone, but Juice, I gotta have supervision with that. They both rated R. But that's what I dealt with as a kid growing up. But I don't think unknowingly my dad was planting a seed to give me a certain perspective. And that's why I kind of like doing movie reviews. So in that little clip you watched with Morgan Freeman, um, he was being pressed and sort of harassed because he wasn't, he hadn't done anything. But because he's in the middle of this whole conundrum that's going on, it is only right to go, ask him a few questions and kind of in a sort of a not an aggressive way, but an oppressing way. And that's what just happened in that transaction there, in that conversation. And so I say all that to say, he was very calculated throughout the movie. He was poised. He never got himself caught up too much into the stuff that was going on. And I like to use that particular instance because it reminds me of me on how I grew up, growing up in public housing, growing up around all the gang stuff, growing up around all these different things. And I was toting the line, but I was be able to just to be calculated just enough, whereas I could be visible but not get in a whole lot of trouble, right? And do what I needed to do, um, but not, you know, burn myself to the point where I can't put the fire out. And I think that's Morgan Freeman's character within this movie. Um, and towards the end of the movie, when you guys watch it, he comes out unscathed, right? Um, Another explosion happens in the movie, and all the evidence gets destroyed, and he pretty much rides off into the sunset, right? So, um, if I didn't learn anything else from this movie, what I learned was what you guys hopefully you'll see when you watch it if you haven't seen it already. Maybe go back and watch it. Um, Sometimes you can be in circumstances, and sometimes you have to make a decision. Do you run from them circumstances, or do you remain poised in that particular surrounding that you're in for the moment and look at all perspectives and make the best decision possible while still being loyal and while still walking the legal line? Morgan Freeman's partner in this movie was just a murderous thug in a suit, was being violent and killing and blowing up everything in front of him. And Morgan Freeman had to stand right next to that and remain poised and be very calculated. And at the end of the movie, he knew that guy was toxic, his partner in the movie. He ended up taking him out. Had he jumped or displayed some behavior where he couldn't be trusted, he might have got taken out. And so that instance right there, it was my life. Because if I hadn't been poised growing up where I grew up, probably wouldn't have made it. All right. So it's interesting how movies can teach us so much. Um, but definitely go watch this movie. Get down in the comments. Tell me what you think. Tell me what you got from it. And that's First Access TV. I'm out.